Hello, this is Paul Richard, and welcome to the Leverage Podcast. We have Nick Paulson with us today from Moda Mortgage, and welcome. Good to have you with us.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me on, Paul.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Excuse me. And so tell us a little bit about your background in the mortgage business and what your previous experience was.
Yeah. So I am an Army notary turned into mortgage professional. I got out of the military and I was just kind of working a full-time job, and I got brought into mortgage business with Veterans United, which is a pretty large mortgage company. And I had a knack for it and it really grew. So I've spent, been in the mortgage business for over 5 years now. Most of that has been actually in managing teams and running teams. So about a year and a half ago, I decided to break away from Veterans United and start working for myself. And so I opened a brokerage here in Springfield, Missouri. Currently, you're licensed for the state of Missouri. We work through the entire state, but we're really focusing on our own backyard here in Springfield. So it's me and my brother, and I have 3 law officers currently. I'm always looking for both.
Fantastic. All right. Well, and when we get towards the end, we'll have you give your contact information if we have any viewers that are interested in becoming a part of your team. Let's get that going. Okay.
Hey,
That's fantastic. Yeah. So how long ago did you start Moda Mortgage?
about a year and a half ago.
About a year and a half ago. Okay. And so you were with Veterans United, and I have a real estate license for the last 20 years, and I've dealt with your previous veterans group, and as well. And so, what's your target market for you? Do you have any particular methodology as far as that goes? I know I'll give you an example. One of my lenders, they target to have like 20 top agents, and that's all they focus on instead of trying to shotgun the market as far as, agents. Obviously, Springfield has multiple thousands of agents. How are you going to market, and how do you work that?
Yeah, a lot of it's just showing up, doing things, meeting people. I mean, social media has been a huge thing for me, the business page, just constantly focusing on that. A lot of the connections that I've made, because I had no local connections previously, really, it was all through social media. It's just been having a presence on there. It's one of the first things people are going to do when they hear about you is they're going to either get up on Google or Facebook or something. So that's been the huge thing for me. Doing classes with our local board of realtors here, helping new agents and with CVs and things like that when they're continuing their education has been a big thing too. And then, I've done some stuff with Make-A-Wish and some things local for the community, focusing on the buyer side of things, not necessarily just real estate agents. But really our big goal is to try to tell, before I was so in a box on what they would really approve at my previous company. Now my big thing is to try to tell less people no. That's been the big thing, is to try to help more people into homes. Because home ownership is just so powerful, and there's a lot of people nowadays that don't have the traditional income. So
Right.
It kind of makes it hard when you're just trying to work with one bigger institution when they don't offer anything like that. So that's the benefit of a brokerage shop is to try to help more people into homes, give them more opportunities.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. And so in your product line, do you obviously you have VA loans as one of your main offerings. Are you doing all other types of loans as well, pretty much?
Oh yeah, we do, your basic your conventional FHA, USDA, VA. Then we can really help, like self-employment buyers, bank statement loans, and we even have stated income type loans, lots of investment portfolios. We can even do commercial loans as well. I mean, really the possibilities are almost endless.
Well, that's fantastic. So what about the all famous, non-warrantable condos? What do you do in that world?
Yeah, we can actually do those. Pretty popular down in the lake, things like that.
Yep.
We actually have some lenders that can do the non-warrantable condos. It's more common than you think nowadays in these condo complexes. They don't meet the requirements anymore. So they get real limited when people are trying to sell and buy it. But yeah, we can offer products for
That's great to know because, I mean, the condo market in Branson is, if you think about when we were at our peak during COVID, we were down to like 40 listings of condos and they were flipping once a month. And now
Wow.
we're almost 600 listings of condos right now going on. So there's a lot of availability, a lot of affordability in that realm as well. So there's some opportunities there for sure. So tell me a little bit. You mentioned a little bit about social media. Social media has so many aspects, so many things that you can do. What's been your approach social media wise to reach the market that you're trying to reach?
My big thing is, man, Facebook has been huge. Creating a business page that uh, is consistent and post, not necessarily, I don't post every single day, but I try to post at least twice a week, just having something of value on there. Whether that's for the buyer or maybe a professional that's also in this industry that I can work with, just having something on there as substance uh, has been really big. And then, of course, just like, man, being involved, like using the page to comment on certain things, like if people are stuck in scenarios, help, I need somebody to help me using the page, and then it just draws traffic towards us. Little Facebook ads with just like simple, hey, want to buy a house? Want to do you think you need 20% down? Like the simple things like that have really drawn traffic towards the page. And I'm not saying it's a mega giant page, but it's growing
Yeah.
consistently every week, which has been awesome. As of late, I've been getting, probably 2 to 3 calls just from Facebook or Google. People who need things and just search mortgage Springfield, Missouri, and I popped up at the top as a sponsored listing there on Google. So
Nice.
that's
Nice.
been the big thing, and just really honing in on that and getting the name out there more and more. And as more people hear about us, getting those reviews is huge. Trying to get reviews from everybody, because the more reviews you have, of course, the better you're gonna look, right? If you've got no reviews, are you real? So trying to capture all those reviews has been a big thing. It's something I probably should have focused on harder when I first started, but it's been a big thing for
Sure.
me to focus on now.
So you're getting some questions through social media and other methods. What are some of the most common questions right now that you see coming in that you've been answering repeatedly?
Yeah, a lot of it is, I'm not sure if I'm credit qualified. I'm not sure if I qualify for a down payment program or whatever. That's the big thing. And, credit is a huge thing right now. Like people have a hard time sometimes making ends meet, and it affects their credit. They take out debt or they miss payments here and there. It's so we have partnered with a credit company to help with that sort of thing. But sometimes that stuff just simply does take time. But there is some
Yeah.
flexibility in what we can offer with that. But sometimes if folks are really trying to qualify for a specific government program, they're going to be strict on what they allow. So we try to set them up and give them a good pathway to get going on that. Uh, that way, so if that's their goal and like they want to do this zero down program, like we'll help them get set up on that. We'll make a plan and create an action plan for them and help them maybe, stop going to Casey's 5 times a day and spending all your money, put a little bit away each week. Every little bit helps, That's
Yeah.
been the big thing is credit. I don't know if my credit is going to qualify. That's been the big question.
Very good. Very good. Um, as far as an application process, is it a completely online thing now for you, or how does that work? If somebody says, hey, I want to find out what I qualify for, where do they start with you, and how do they do that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times the best way, just give me a call. A lot of the stuff that, an online application is great, maybe you get things going. But phone call is going to be, much more fruitful for us because we'll be able to actually have a consultation and see what's available for you, right? So, you know, it doesn't take more than 20 minutes to get to it, figure out what the root issues are, what we need to work on. I also have an office too. I've had people come in, so I've got, you can come in, you can call me, or I do have an online application. But I would say the best way, give me a call and we can walk through it and see what's actually available for you.
Very good, very good. And so if they do have an issue that comes up, you're able to work with them to possibly get them credit worthy if that's the issue, et cetera. That sounds great.
Yeah.
What are you seeing right now as far as interest rate fluctuation? What's going on in the marketplace right now?
Well, unfortunately, world events do affect the mortgage market. Uh, things were looking pretty solid about a month or two ago, and a lot of the stuff that's happening overseas in the Middle East has affected the mortgage industry. Uh, Rates were, in the fives, comfortably sitting in the fives, doing lots of refinances for folks that were in the sevens, sixes. And now, rates have kind of crept back up a little bit, and they're in the low sixes now. Maybe you'll see a high five on a good day, but they're trending downward. But who knows if I would say when all this settles out, we'll probably be back into those comfortable fives again.
Very good, very good. Obviously, that's one of the big things of affordability as far as that goes. As far as market volume, can you give us an idea, like 2025 compared to what's happening this year? What are you seeing trending? Is there an increase in number of purchases, or is it about the same, or what are you seeing?
I'd say as buyers, from my side of things, I'd say that probably about the same amount of buyers. It's still really for every home buyer, there's two homes listed. So it's been kind of the buyer's market. They've had a pick of the litter, really. So what that means, though, for buyers is if you decide, I always say the best day to buy a house is the first day you can afford it, because sitting around and waiting often doesn't play out. We'll talk to folks that want to, I think I need to wait. I think I need to wait. Talk to them a year later, the exact same position they were in a year ago. They spent all that money on rent that they could have been spending on their own mortgage. But what's nice about this market right now, it's very similar to last year's, is folks who are wanting to buy are getting seller concessions. Sellers are really motivated to move these properties because they know that for every buyer, there's two listings out there. So it's not like it was during COVID when you could list a house and have it sold in 30 minutes. These homes are sitting, 30 plus days, and people were so trained, and still we're kind of breaking that now from the COVID days of, if a home's listed over 30 days, there must be something wrong with it. We're just kind of going back to how things were before. 30 to 45 days on market is very common.
Very good. I was wondering too, in the inspection section of the purchase, are you seeing more or less fallout of contract deals, or is it about the same? In my world, what I've seen, and obviously I have a little bit smaller view than maybe you do across several realtors, it seems like there's a higher fallout rate because the buyers are being more demanding and that type of thing. I don't know. Is that what you're seeing, or is it about the same?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is buyers need to have reasonable expectations. No house is going to be perfect. It's kind of tough sometimes, especially with first-time buyers. They don't understand, well, the house is new. It's not like a car that comes off the assembly line. It's going to be exactly the same tooling, same machinery, same materials on everything. Each house, even though they may be built on the same plans and specs, they're going to be a little bit different because it's built by several different people, several different companies even a lot of times, and there's going to be things with all of them. So I think a lot of it is just setting reasonable expectations. Yeah, you're still going to have here and there, maybe from the home inspection. First, home inspectors are a whole different breed, and a lot of them, I think, can scare a lot of buyers off with things. Versus an appraisal, like an FHA appraisal or VA appraisal, things like that, where they look for the big things that, that have to meet the certain lending requirements. I think a lot of times when they get these home inspections, and it's 12 pages, but it lists, light switches, cover is off the wall, a millimeter, and I think it just builds up a lot, and they think, well, this house is junk. So I think a lot of it is setting up reasonable expectations and what to expect when you're actually looking at a home. No home is perfect. The fallout, I haven't seen a ton of fallout with inspections, but it does happen occasionally. I wouldn't say it's any more, any less than before.
Okay, yeah, that's good insight into that. And I'm curious, to change subjects a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
AI is affecting all different industries, right? So it's really happening in the real estate business. How do you see it affecting the mortgage business, as we go forward in the next year or two? Do you see some major changes, or do you see it just kind of aiding you in your research, or how's that going to look?
Yeah, I mean, AI is a great tool. Um, from when I started until now, it's been implemented a lot more. I will say that as far as loan officers go, folks will always want to talk to a human when it comes to that, because AI, it can do a lot, but it can't help you. It can't talk to you. It can't help guide you. It can't help set you up with a plan. It can't help, it doesn't, it's not, still, people are always going to want that human connection. I feel like when it comes to the loan officer side of things, where we're really seeing a lot of AI is on the lender side of things. A lot of them, certain file types, they use AI to do initial underwrites, which means, faster turn times when it comes to closings. I have a HELOC lender that basically fully underwrites the whole loan with AI. So where AI is really coming into play is going to be more on the back end of things. It's going to probably be a great assistant for underwriters and lenders. But as far as the loan officer side of things, where I really use AI, helps me come up with plans for marketing or making material and things like that. And occasionally I'll use it for, an income calculation or something like that if it's super complex. I always still keep the pen and paper here just in case, but it has helped speed up things like that. But at the end of the day, buying a house, my side of things, sort of the introduction into dipping their toes into home buying, you're always going to want to speak to it, even I feel.
Absolutely. I agree with you totally. That part of it, because it is a trust business for sure, and a lot of questions come up in that regard, and so it's the same in the realtor side of things. I'm curious too, what are you seeing in the overall market as far as home sales on different price points? In other words, what would you say your typical first-time home buyer price point is right now? What's kind of the transitional market between, if somebody's a baby boomer and they're going to do maybe downsize or something like that, and then what are you seeing on the luxury market? What can you kind of comment on those areas of what you're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, Springfield's great because it has all different people on the spectrum of, what they're looking for when it comes to buying a house. I've done $1 million homes. I've done $50,000 homes. You've got all sorts of different people everywhere in between. Really, what I'm seeing a lot of right now is that sub 300. The average loan amount is probably around 250,000 or so. So purchase price is probably about 265, 260. I see a lot of 3.2, 4.2 type of homes here in Springfield, and there's no short supply of that. That most of our business is probably going to be sub 300K and under. Really, when you're getting more into more of the higher end, you're probably looking at about 450 plus. But yeah, I mean, there's all different types of people that live here at home, and Springfield is such a great town for employment. People move, they bring their money in from other places, and they want these. They're used to paying $600,000 for homes they can get here, 400,000. So that's what's nice about Springfield is the livability and cost of living. But really, I mean, there's going to be probably a house for almost any budget around here. If I can get you qualified, we can find something. Versus before, when I would be working with buyers out in California, I'm like, hey, I got you qualified for 200,000. And they're like, well, I can't even buy a shed. Out here you can buy a great house for that. My first house was 100. My first house was 110,000.
Yeah, absolutely. And are you seeing, like we did during COVID, you had a lot of out-of-state buyers. Are you seeing a reduction in that more recently, or what are you seeing as far as out-of-state buyers coming into town?
I'm not seeing it as much. No. There are folks that are coming in for, because we've got O'Reilly's, we've got Bass Pro, we've got even Amazon. A lot of these big companies that are nationwide are headquartered, or they have big places here. Like Amazon just built that warehouse, but we've got a lot of companies that are headquartered here that move people in from all these different places all over the country. I don't see it as common anymore as folks moving in, but I mean, it does happen from time to time. I'm seeing a lot of people wanting to buy second homes here to prepare for retirement. That is something I've noticed.
Absolutely. And it's funny, I was talking to somebody the other day. In fact, I got a call. I got a referral in, and somebody looking for roughly 5 acres with just maybe even a pad on it that they could bring an RV in and park it there for a year while they build their house and that type of thing. And I could count thousands of people, probably hundreds, that have called me and wanted to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Are you able to finance land, or is that something that's typically not in your wheelhouse?
Yeah, land can get tricky, but we do have solutions for that. A lot of times when hey, you want to buy land, well, are you wanting to just buy land or you wanting to build on it? A lot of times we're going to build on it, and that's where, construction law is going to come into play. But if you do want to buy vacant land, I do have products for that. It's going to have to meet certain size requirements and things, but we can do vacant land. Folks are wanting to buy vacant land and move even a mobile home in on it. We can actually do a construction loan for that.
Very good. Are you doing any things like first-time homebuyer seminars or anything like that?
I've done a few. I've done a couple of them. I'm thinking about, I've done a lot of in-person ones. I was actually thinking about doing some virtual ones. But it's tough because you don't know. It's hard to get folks to commit. Really, it's tough to see what they're looking for. And really, what I've noticed a lot of times is, yes, they want to come to a seminar, but deep down, really, what they want to do is just talk to me one-on-one and figure out what actually applies to them. Instead of sitting through something that is a generalized thing, or to a lot of folks, most of the time it's going to be more effective. They just want to call me and talk to me one-on-one. That's been the best seminar.
Very good. Very good. As you know, I work in the virtual assistant world with helping place virtual assistants into businesses that they work remotely. And are you seeing in your industry much of the use of virtual assistants, or what has been your view on that?
Not necessarily in the lending side, but realtors are using them a lot of times for transaction coordinators and things like that. And I'll communicate with them versus the agent on a lot of stuff nowadays. My side of things is kind of tricky. There's a lot of compliance, there's a lot of licensing and things like that can come into play. I haven't seen anybody that I know of that's using a virtual assistant in their business as far as like processing or anything like that. There's a lot of regulation when it comes to our side of things, and you can open yourself up to a lot of legal problems if you don't do it properly. So most of the time, it's going to be on the realtor side of things with their transaction coordinators, but not necessarily on our side, not yet. And who knows?
Got it. Yeah. Just in closing, what have you seen changes under the new administration? Have you seen some changes in the regulation side of things? Has there been any changes that you might want to note on our podcast here?
There's been some things that have changed. So, anybody that's essentially a non-permanent resident alien is no longer eligible for a lot of government loans. That was something that took effect early last year. But really, other than that, there hasn't been a ton of, other changes or guideline changes, things like that. They're doing a more cracking down on, before there was just so much business going through during COVID and things like that, and kind of the aftermath. There's just so much business, it's almost impossible for them to regulate. But now things have gotten to where they're able to regulate it a little bit more. And I've heard about, more folks getting, who have been doing things a certain way incorrectly for a long time, getting in trouble, actually getting audited and getting caught by CFPB. There's been a lot of things like that I've seen. But as far as changes to my industry or guidelines, things like that, not really. Nothing too crazy. There's always talks of a grant or some sort, $25,000 grant, but nothing ever comes to fruition on those.
Right, absolutely. Well, very good, Nick. It's been a pleasure having you on the podcast today. Thank you so much for the information. Give us your contact information real briefly here before we close. And so, if somebody wants to reach you, what's your phone number and your email address, if you don't mind?
Yeah, no. My phone number, 417-773-8059. You can call or text that. It's my cell. I keep it on me all the time. My website is Nick, Paulson, PAULSON.com. It's got all the info about me, calculators, information, and it's got a link to my application on there as well. My office is located in Republican National, south side of town. We're over here in the Kingport. So if you ever want to come in person, you can set up a time and come in and we can chat as well.
Okay. And if they wanted to meet you at one of the networking meetings, what networking meeting do you usually attend?
Man, I don't really attend very many of them.
Oh, you don't? Okay, I didn't know if you had any that you did. Okay,
no.
All right, very good. All right, well, thanks again, Nick. I appreciate you very much. It's been a pleasure, my friend.
Hey, thanks, Paul. Appreciate it.